So, Daryl, we've got Ask the Expert coming up very shortly. So anyone out there that's got some questions on content marketing, get them ready. We'll be coming back to it after we do a little bit of in-app work to show you how Infusionsoft can help you with the attract within content marketing.
Absolutely. So if we're going to look in-app, I think the first thing, we've been talking all about attract during today's show, and one of the key tools you can use with Infusionsoft to capture leads is the Infusionsoft web form or landing page. So I think it's probably worthwhile just spending a little bit of time talking about those two tools in Infusionsoft. Does that sound about right, Lisa?
Sounds about right, Daryl.
Excellent. Okay. So to start off with, the two tools fundamentally you can use in Infusionsoft is either a landing page or a web form. A web form is really a snippet which you can put into your website, or a landing page is exactly what it says. It's a complete landing page which can be either hosted on your website or standalone from that point of view. You can access it via the toolbox in Infusionsoft, and it's the first top two icons in the goals section. So if you clicked on goals, you'd see sign up for newsletter, and that's a web form, or you can have register for an event, which is the landing page. So those are the key two tools. One other point which might be worth just mentioning here, it's a little bit technical, but everybody should have an awareness, is that when you go into a web form or a landing page and you want to insert that into your website, you would go to the code section on the web form designer page. And in the code section, you've got three different types of options in there in terms of grabbing the code. And you can either use JavaScript, HTML, or HTML styled. And it's probably worth just mentioning to our listeners as to when you'd use each individual one. Does that sound like a good idea, Lisa?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so you're more the technical person, so I'm going to give it a go on describing these three.
So I get to interrupt you.
And I assure you, you can interrupt me if you wish as soon as I start to move on. So this is what I tell my clients, and I keep my fingers crossed you're going to say I'm right. So JavaScript, first of all. JavaScript is a piece of code that you can pick up, put it onto your website, and what it technically means is that when your web page loads, the web page will go off to Infusionsoft, grab the information which that code has directed it to, and then pull back the web form and load it up onto your website. Now, on that basis, is that the advantage of doing that is that you can load the code, the JavaScript code, up onto your web page, and then subsequently to that, once it's loaded, you can go and make as many changes to the web form you like within Infusionsoft, and then those changes will automatically be reflected onto your website. How does that sound, Lisa? Does that sound about right?
That's 10 out of 10. It will dynamically update if you update it in Infusionsoft. The downside of this, however, is it's not responsive, which means that if you view it on a mobile phone or on a tablet, the form will not resize as a responsive website would resize. So that is really just the downside of a JavaScript. And also, it can be a little bit temperamental in WordPress. That would be the two things on the downside that I would say about it.
Excellent. Okay, so there's a bit of both on both sides. The other two options, which is HTML and HTML unstyled, basically is you're from what I understand, you're taking the code again, you're putting it onto your website, but it's effectively hard coded onto your website. So the code exists on your website, the page loads, it's all there. You know, the flip side to what we just discussed is that if you go and update your web form in Infusionsoft, that's not going to be automatically reflected onto your website.
That's right. And the difference between the HTML code and the HTML code unstyled is the code, the middle one on the screen at the moment, is the one, if you style the form within Infusionsoft, that's the code for it, as it's styled in Infusionsoft. If you use the unstyled code, it will take the styling of your website. So the headers and the tags and everything else that are pre-configured in your CSS of your website will be applied to the unstyled HTML code. So that's the difference between the two.
And for non-technical people, I mean, would you say it's a good idea to experiment with unstyled?
Well, if you've got something like a handy CMS like in WordPress, where it's very easy just to copy and paste into the text window, then go for it. Anything more complicated than that, no, leave it alone, give it to a web designer, give it to an expert to do.
Okay, excellent. I know a lot of customers just stick with JavaScript and they put the time and effort into making the web form look good, and you certainly can do that within Infusionsoft.
100%, and you've also got the option of a hosted form. So if you haven't got a website and you don't want to embed it and you want to link to an email and have a freestanding hosted by Infusionsoft form, that's where you would use the hosted version. And they've got two versions there. One you can edit so that you can give it a nice little pretty link so it doesn't have a load of ridiculous letters and numbers, and you can give it a nice name for if you're posting it on social media and stuff.
Excellent. Time is against us, so I want to whip through a few other key points around web forms and landing pages. One of my pet things on web forms and indeed landing pages is for people to focus on using the thank you page effectively. Whenever you hit the submit button, then you're going to be taken somewhere, and the worst place is just to be left to taken to the default Infusionsoft thank you page. I think there's so much more you can do. You can put more content in there. You can ask further questions. And indeed, the styling you can change as well, can't you, Lisa?
100%. And a thank you page is almost one of the most... You don't want it to be a dead end. You don't want people to end their journey on the thank you page. You want to encourage them either with an upsell or come and join us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is. You want to continue their journey at the thank you page, not just have them hit a brick wall and a dead end.
Absolutely. So, okay, so if we're going to move on, we've talked a little bit about the different types of web forms. Landing pages are very similar to web forms, except they enable you to provide a little bit more flexibility in terms of the way the information is presented. You can have 2 columns on there. You can have a full width header, full width footer, and it can be, as Lisa said earlier on, it's already can be hosted by Infusionsoft. So if you want more than just a basic set of information, then consider using a landing page in order to do that.
And there's external pieces of software that will plug in with Infusionsoft for lead pages and for lead magnets. And these are the 3 most popular for different reasons. OptimizePress will only work with WordPress sites, but they are specifically designed to be landing pages and lead magnets. So if you want to go that one step further, then it's worth investing in one of these pieces of software that will link in with Infusionsoft, because the beauty of Infusionsoft is its open API, which allows people to plug in external pieces of software with the software bridge.
Absolutely. And you mentioned open API. Where's people going to find the API code?
The API code, if you go to the main Infusionsoft navigation bar and select Admin and Settings, and then you scroll down, you will find the API passphrase. And normally with your app ID, which is the first 4 or 5 letters and numbers before the .infusionsoft.com, so that's your ID, you would literally just paste in the encrypted key there. You should not ever change the API passphrase once you set it in your app, because if you are then linked out to other pieces of software, it will break the link. So just bear that in mind.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Well, we're reaching the close of our time, I feel.